Welcome back to our 2K per day challenge here at the Future Fiction Academy. In this series of videos, a member of the Future Fiction Academy is going to sit down every day and show you how they get their 2,000 words in for the day. Each video will take as long as it takes to get those 2K words. My name is Stacey Anderson, and I'm starting back with my story that I left off with in my last video. I'm working on a dark fantasy romance novel. I finished chapter 10 in the last video, so now I'm going to be working on chapter 11. In the last video, I showed you my process when I had an idea of what's going to happen for the next scene. So what I did was I created a set of instructions or a plan for what we were going to do to write the scene. We wrote the scene, we created a plan to edit the scene, we edited the scene in a sequence of 4 prompts. To create that plan to write the scene, I had about a paragraph, 200 or so words, of what I wanted to happen in the next scene. At this point, I am a little stuck and I don't know what I want to happen next. So I'm going to go and jump into both Claude and GPT-4o to get some ideas of what to do in the next scene and then go ahead and write it. So I showed you that I keep a list of all of the elements I need for my story inside of Notion. One of those, the 10th slot, is the story so far, and it literally is all 10 chapters of the story so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to construct my prompt. That way it's just a simple copy and paste. I'm not going to show you this inside of Rexy today, although I can easily use it. I'm going to show you inside of the 2 different chat interfaces. So the first part of my prompt is going to be, please read the following story so far for a dark fantasy romance novel. And then I'm going to create my Tupperware containers, or these square brackets, to tell the LLM where the story so far starts and finishes. That helps give it indications whenever I'm giving it lists of information, whether it's characters, setting. I always set it up within these square brackets. Like I said, in the FFA, we call them Tupperware containers because we never want these mystery containers of leftovers. We always want everything nicely labeled so we know what it is. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and I'm going to close out these square containers. So again, at the end of it, I use the same square brackets but a slash. In most programming languages, and the way an LLM understands, has been trained, is that is the closing of that section. So that is the story so far. And now I'll go ahead and write the prompt. I'll create my dinkus, or 3 stars, which gives it another indication that this is a separate section of the prompt, although with the Tupperware containers, that pretty much takes care of it now. Okay, now I have a prompt at the end. Please give me some ideas about what should happen in the next scene. This scene will be from Lyra's point of view and should pick up seamlessly from the events that just happened in the book. And then I go into what just happened, what could happen in the next scene to progress the plot and Lyra's character arc. That's great. This should hopefully give me some ideas I can work back and forth with the LLM to brainstorm. So I'm just going to copy everything. And then I'm going to bring it over here to a new Claude chat. There are 3 Claude 3 models, and I can use any of them. I think I'll stick with Opus for this one, just to see how it does, but I've gotten some great results out of Sonnet as well. First of all, the reason that I wrote it, the prompt and everything separately in Notion, is you can see it pastes it like this, which is fine. You can still click here and view the entire prompt on the side, but it doesn't line everything up exactly the way I want. If I have to, say, read this, paste in the story, then type the prompt, it doesn't always put it in the order I want. So I do tend to write the prompt, if it's a longer one, outside of the LLM and paste it in. Here we have some ideas. Okay, this is getting to be a pet peeve of mine. With Claude, at least, it's always overhearing a conversation, overhearing this. It's very passive. So I might, if I have a bunch of this, I might reword the prompt to ask for more active plot events. Okay. Here, Lyra overhears a conversation, which I'm already throwing out. Okay, Lyra makes a careless mistake that brings down the wrath of the cruel overseer. That's been done in some of the other chapters, so I'm probably not going to do that either. And again, Lyra is reflecting on something that happens. Again, I will probably have to change my prompt to ask for active plot points, action. There's a couple interesting seeds of an idea, but nothing I really like. And again, these are too passive. It's telling me to reflect. She overhears something. I want action to happen. Okay, so let's try this again. No, I don't like these ideals at all. I want more active scenes. Plot information cannot be discovered simply by overseeing or overhearing plans. Lyra must be proactive. She is now worried about her family and wants to do something to protect them. There must be a clear goal, motivation, and conflict to these scenes, to this scene. And of course, Claude agrees with me because it always does. And it is now mapping out the goal, motivation, and conflict for this scene. And it's decided she wants to get a message out of the castle to her family she's left behind. This is a little better. So it has Lyra working to write a letter to her family at home. Proves a little more challenging than she thought. She has to steal the parchment, paper, find a few minutes to actually write it, smuggle it out with some supplies. She almost gets caught. So this is getting much better over what is she writing to her family. Okay, so I have what could be a scene, an interesting scene with smuggling out this letter, but what in the world is she writing? So I've put that in the prompt. So this is good, but what is she writing her family? Her family is in no position to help her. They would only endanger themselves if they came after her. They're also very poor. They were on the brink of starvation when she left. What could she warn them to do? What could the letter be about? And let's see what we come up with on this set of ideas. So Lyra doesn't warn her family to flee or come to her aid. So she's just telling them that she's safe. She says she's encoded a secret message into it that her and her younger sister, who was introduced in chapter 1, has a hidden message that's intended for Bryn, the village healer, and a man that Lyra has always trusted. Lyra begs Bran to get word to the nearby human kingdoms about her plight. There is no long-standing treaty, so that's a bit of a hallucination, but I can work with that. She hopes with this diplomatic issue she can pressure Malachi to release her. Okay, I have some ideas to work with. I can't say they're exactly my favorite at the moment, but let's go ahead and take this same prompt that we gave to Claude and give it to ChatGPT. So I'm going to use the newest model, which is 4.0 at the recording of this. Just paste the entire thing in. Like I said, this is simply the first 10 chapters and then prompt to give me some ideas. And it is too long. So because this was a little too long, I actually do have an idea. So I'm going to make a new prompt here. So I'm giving it the same prompt. Please read the following summary of a story so far for a dark fantasy romance novel. And I'm going to put story so far. I'm going to take a little bit of copying and pasting, but that's fine. So here are my chapters so far. And if you remember, I showed you in the last video, I have Notion AI, which right here, the whole chapter is below here, but it automatically gives me a nice summary. I can simply copy that to the clipboard. And then just do that for each of the other ones. So just copy the AI summary for chapter 2. And I skipped a little bit ahead so you didn't have to see all this copying and pasting, but essentially every paragraph here is just a short summary for the 10 chapters. So chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So instead of having the entire story so far, which is outside of the context window of GPT 4.0 or any of the GPTs, I believe, I just went ahead and put a summary of each chapter. And then at the bottom here, this was the original prompt. Please give me some ideas for what should happen in the next scene. It's exactly what we asked Claude. So I'll take this and just put it in ChatGPT 4.0. And let's see what ideas it gives me. Okay, so it only gave me one option, but here's what it gave me. I think I like this one a little better. She has passed a note from the rebels that she unwittingly helped, asking them to meet her. She's distrusts them, but thinks she might do it. Malachi breaks in as she's discussing with one of the other servants that she helped, questions her. Malachi asks her to be a spy. It gives a little more struggle and ideas to work with. So I think I'll work with this. That's great. So now I'm just going to ask it to take all this and to summarize it in a few paragraphs. So I could do exactly what I did in the last video to create my next 2,000 words. Perfect. So let's go ahead and do this. So I didn't like what Claude gave me, but I did what ChatGPT 4.0 gave me, which does seem to be what I've been noticing lately. Again, this changes rather quickly and as the models are updated. But for right now, I tend to like ChatGPT 4.0 more for brainstorming, creating plans, and then Claude 3. Like I said, I like both Sonnet and Opus for actual prose writing. So let me jump into Rexy now. So here we are in Rexy, which I showed you my setup in yesterday's video, but I'm just going to do the exact same setup and prompts. In the first prompt is make a plan to write the story, and I'm going to use that using GPT 4.0. The second prompt it will then immediately do is to take that plan and write the story, and I'm going to do that with Claude. The third one is to read that scene and now make a plan to revise it, and I'm going to use GPT 4.0 for that. And then my final one is to take the scene that was written, the revision plan, and then revise the scene, and I'm going to use Claude's Sonnet for that. So there we go. So I'm now telling Rexy that I want to run 4 prompts, those 4 prompts I just put in. I have all my information put in with the exception of right here in my S slot, which is just a temporary save slot. I need to put this information that we just brainstormed with ChatGPT. So I'll cut and paste that in here. Take out the scene summary part. Okay, and now I have what I would like the plan to be written into in the writing brief. Let's go ahead and let's bang. Here is my plan to write the scene. Main event. The overview of the dialogue I want to happen. Both the feeling and the tone and what should be accomplished. Conflict and tension points in the scene. Emotional tones and themes. Character development. Pacing and timing. Sensory details. And specific requirements as well as a word count target. Again, I gave it a template inside of my prompt, telling it to fill out all this information for the writing brief, and that is how I ensured I got such a nice, thorough writing brief that I find then helps with Claude to write much better scenes. And now Claude is writing. Okay, it's already a little more purple than I like, but it's got all the information I want. So it picked up exactly where I left off. Some dialogue. There's when she finds the note. There's when Arya, one of other servants that she unwittingly helped, not knowing it would lead to the attack, part of the rebellion. More dialogue with her. Okay, so it's finished up. It was actually faster than I was. When I come over here to what was written, it wrote about 2,800 words, but then cut off mid-sentence, which is about what we've been seeing. The Claude 3 models seem to be able to write about 3,000 words. Sometimes you get lucky with a little more, sometimes a little less, but that seems to be its maximum output. So it just stopped in the middle. But I almost like where it stopped because we had two different events happening in this scene. One where Lyra's talking to Arya, and then Malachi bursts in and basically accuses Lyra and tells her to start spying on her friends for him. That was probably too much information or too many events to put into one scene. Actually, where it cuts off is almost a good spot. I might cut off a little bit of this, but then the other part of what we just brainstormed with ChatGPT, I'll make that into chapter 12 or tomorrow's 2,000 words. This will be chapter 11. Here, Lyra's talking to Arya. And then Malachi bursts in, yells out. He snarls, his deep voice slicing all of you out except you two. Other servants leave. And then what I'll probably do is just cut it here. He yells at all the other servants to get out. Says he just wants to talk to Arya and Lyra. Actually, I'm going to change that so it's just Lyra. And then the second half of what we brainstormed will become the next scene for tomorrow from Malachi's point of view. So again, you can join me tomorrow. That's what I'll be doing, taking the ideas from the second half of what we brainstormed today and turning that into the next chapter. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you then. Bye.